Hello, let's talk about Sarah Pauli's collection of autobiographical essays, A Run Towards the Danger, 2022 collection by the Academy Award winning screenwriter who has had a very eventful life as a child star, growing up with a mother who actually did not grow up with her when she died when she was like 11, as a child star on kind of what I consider kind of Canadian pablum of like Road to Avonlea, that kind of golden hued, kind of sentimentalized view of the good old days in Canada. And spoiler, the actual star of the show didn't actually think very much of it herself at the time. She was probably as snarky and as she was probably more politically aware than but I just immediately reacted against that sort of stuff. And she's really risen as an incredibly talented, sharp, and incisive director and writer of movies in her own right. And I kind of came into this book going like, okay, she's sort of, for Canada, she is a celebrity. Is this going to be one of these kind of celebrity books where it's written by somebody who's not really a writer? And I mean, she obviously is a writer. Hello, Academy Award for best adapted screenplay. But that's one sort of skill. Is she going to be able to kind of hold herself in a book? And the really good thing about this collection was that yes, at least as a personal essayist, she's very much able to. Actually, in some of the early sections, it felt like maybe she was leaning a little on the more kind of intellectualized side of things, which I mean is fine in your stuff, but it almost felt like it was okay. I'm someone who's coming into this space who's probably just seen as an actress or whatever, so I have to kind of prove my creds. And I found like as the essays went along, they became more personal, more less intellectual frameworks needing to get put around stuff. The subtitle of the book is Confrontations with a Body of Memory, and that may sound a little intellectualized until you find out about the kind of the very many bodily issues that actually come up in this book. She had childhood scoliosis that had to have surgery on. She had to have a brace on, so very much kind of that way. In the later parts of the book, she has to kind of find her way through having a concussion, which severely limited how much stuff, basically sensory input, just how she was able to deal with the world. It took a real good break in there for her to kind of get back to the point where she is now, like, last night accepting an award for the for best adapted screenplay for Women Talking. So yeah. It was a really interesting. It was, it's like she's relatively still like a young woman, at least consider from my viewpoint as a 50-year-old guy, young woman. She's, god damn it, but she's had quite the life as a child star, as someone having worked in the industry as a child, the entertainment industry, and you really come away from this book going, no children should be allowed to be in this goddamn industry, especially someone when you're the lead, whether that is the Road to Avonlea or whether that is mourning, where you're mourning the death of your mother and put back to work again, and that or being on stage playing Alice, of Alice in Wonderland fame, um, in a kind of a deeply creepy production that's going to be like, oh, how wonderful Lewis Carroll, that pedophile was, or that wannabe pedophile was. Just that sort of stuff. How the massive pressures put on children, or later working with Terry Gilliam, who has become more and more known as real asshole, who had really unsafe conditions. I mean, not only for just the adults on that set, but for Sarah Polley as a child, and there not being proper safeguards for her. It was basically assumed, oh, well, that's what the parents are for. However, this is the meal ticket as well, and actually saying no to the director on this massive production with all this money riding on it, it's like it's recipe for horrible child endangerment and destruction. And it's a movie that I quite have fond memories of. The Adventures of Baron Munchausen was the production where she's almost like freaking blown up by Terry Gilliam. Just like really, really terrible stuff there. So there's all that. There is the fact that she went on a violent date with Jian Ghomeshi, which, if you're not Canadian, that he was sort of an early, if not almost pre-Me Too movement thing of this CBC talk show host, personality, or actually radio talk show host, but on the CBC, who was violent towards choked women for his own kicks. Now, he was acquitted of all charges after the women were hauled up. The women who were actually who could had the resources could go actually stand up in court and testify against him, where they were completely ripped to shreds by the defense team. And really, it's one of these things of like, oh, you've just had a horrible trauma. You should have all the details exactly perfect in your head. You should not lean on each other for any support. That's collusion. All these things, which are fucking nonsense, were put together. And she talks about how, because of who she knew, that she didn't come forward. And they're like saying like, don't come forward. Do not come forward. And it's because she knew lawyers who were like, I would never, ever allow anyone I knew to come forward to testify in this. This will horribly traumatize you, which it indeed did to the women who had already been traumatized by Jian Ghomeshi, the dirtbag in question here. So she's got to kind of go through, I didn't come forward in that case. And this is why, and kind of sharing that story. And I mean, boy, I was very much following that case when it came out, and it's not something you can blame her for, but she's someone who, like, her most recent movie, which she just won the Academy Award for, is about women getting horribly abused in a community, and them talking about what they're going to do about it, how they're going to deal with this situation. Women talking. Yeah, the final essay about which is sort of the run towards the danger, is about her dealing with concussion, and that was the one that I probably found the most personally hard to read of them, because I'm very close with somebody who has a concussion and is still dealing with concussion, who is slowly working their way out of it, or working to deal with it. It hasn't gone away. It probably never will go away. And there's a part of me that, because it's very much kind of like, oh, you should flood yourself with anything that kind of triggers you, or anything that kind of overwhelms you, that puts up that wall that you run towards. You should just keep on going through it. And I'm really glad that worked for Sarah Polley. There's a part of me that's like, okay, well, this is a personal essay. This isn't like a medical journal saying that this is going to work for everyone. And I don't think she's trying to put forward that it should work for everyone. Though there's a part of me that goes, I hope someone with a concussion doesn't read this and try this method and it doesn't work for them and feels horrible about themselves. I mean, I think there's such an individual thing of what's going to work for you. What may work for one person may not work for another person, and what the kind of levels of severity of concussion you have. So that was the only one where it's like, it's when you get into kind of describing medical stuff in a personal essay, there's definitely a thing of, maybe I do feel like there should have been a little bit more of caveats there of like, this is my experience, this is what happened to me. I mean, I'm not dumb, I know that's what it is, but there was that sort of feeling. That was the only one I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about it. Other than that, just like really thoughtful, really kind of self, really seemed like kind of like the best kind of personal essay like this isn't something where it's just like she's not like justifying all her decisions and saying I was right. This is like, no, I'm gonna really examine myself. I'm gonna confront these incidents in my life, and I'm going to really interrogate them. And I'm maybe not always going to come out as the best person, but by doing that, you actually do come out as the best kind of person, because you're someone who understands I am not perfect, but that I'm also kind of that strength of character to be able to kind of to look at this stuff and discuss it, and really has value for other people to read about it. So yeah, that is Sarah Plly's collection of personal essays, Run Towards the Danger. All right, I've been Jay. More videos later.